Shield, powered by 365 Sports. I'm Jacob Wilson, and I'm joined, of course, by Tanner Carlson. Tanner, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. We had a crazy last couple of hours within the trade deadline. I mean, it just seemed as though, every team was trying to make moves. It seems like this year is more open, I think, than we've seen in previous years in terms of it's an open race to a Super Bowl and a playoff run. And so I think a lot of these teams are trying to make those last-second moves in terms of this could be the final piece that pushes us over the edge. And so we saw that a lot yesterday. And then, I just think between the games and the trade deadline and then Halloween on top of it, all the costumes you saw, it was just a crazy week in the NFL.
Yeah, like the trade deadline, it kind of reminded me of a baseball trade deadline just because there were actually a lot of guys that got dealt to new teams, and you don't typically see that in the NFL. And so it was very, very exciting, even though not everyone that was a big name that had rumors around them got traded. But all of our picks from last week on who was going to go where, completely accurate.
Oh, 100%.
And you're more than welcome to watch last week's episode if you want to verify that. But before we get into that, we'll have a pretty graphic of where everyone who got traded ended up. I want to talk about the Cowboys for a second because we are in the heart of Texas. So what do you think about Sunday's game?
No, they played great. They looked great. I thought there were a couple of questions on the defense that, need to be addressed and need to be worked on throughout the regular season. And so things that have bit the Cowboys in the ass, quite frankly, when it comes to playoff games. And that's stopping the run. And we got dominated last year by San Francisco because we couldn't stop the run. We've gotten dominated by the Rams in previous years in the playoffs because we couldn't stop the run. And so it just seemed as though the Bears were down by almost 30 points in that game, and they decided, hey, let's stick with the run instead of try to pass because that was their most effective offense. Yeah. So I think that's my only real question mark, but I'm just glad to see that the offense stepped up when the defense had a stumble. They didn't play bad. It wasn't like they just let up big plays. It's not like they didn't get turnovers, things like that, but they didn't play their best game, but the offense played well enough that it didn't matter.
Yeah, and this Bears team, like Justin Fields, I said it last week, that game against the Patriots, it was the first time he didn't look like a rookie. And then he came out and didn't look like a rookie again against the Cowboys. This Bears team, they might actually be finding their form, but ultimately it didn't matter. The Cowboys' offense was too good. The Bears couldn't keep up, and it was really awesome to see Micah Parsons score that touchdown. If we have time, I'll throw up the film because Justin Fields literally jumped over him to get out of the way. And you think, I might want to touch the guy and make sure he's down.
Yeah, and I want to pat myself on the back. I sent you the text. I've got proof. It's time-stamped. And I sent it to a buddy of mine, and it says, it's like, hey, Micah Parsons will score a touchdown in this game. I don't know how. I don't know when. And I sent that at around 1 o'clock, so we're about an hour into the actual game. And it happened in the second half around like 2 o'clock.
Clean up your language next time so I can actually...
Yeah, well, you could have blurted it out, But, yes, I have a very dirty mouth when it comes to text to just private friends and whatnot. But anyway, it was a very exciting game. Micah, I think he's... dealing with a hip injury, he's dealing with a knee, he's dealing with a neck. I think he's all kinds of banged up right now.
Maybe the defensive player of the year with all those injuries.
And he's dominating. And so the bye week couldn't have come out of their time, I don't think, for the Cowboys.
Yeah. Speaking of dirty mouths, we got Emery Winter producing for us here today. Emery, Baylor student.
There's a reason why his mic is up. He's like, I can't be caught.
Yeah, we've got soap in. Yeah, we'll wash it down with the beer here. All right.
No, and I think another thing too, just one last thing on the Cowboys. We can kind of move on after this, and the Cowboys, we'll bring them up multiple times throughout the show, of course. But Tony Pollard, it's obvious. It is no more evident than what we saw last week that he is running back number one. He should be the go-to guy. Should be getting the premier carries. Zeke has a spot on this team. I hate whenever I say that and people think, well, what are you going to do with Zeke? You're going to use Zeke the way you've been using him. He's going to be a power run guy. He's going to wear down defenses in the first half. He's going to be a good pass blocker for Dak Prescott.
It's the only thing that he clearly does better right now.
And and that's okay. Now, are we spending that money on him for him to be doing that? No, not at all. But the contract is the contract. Zeke has a place on this team, but Pollard is the clear-cut, better overall running back at this stage in their career.
Yeah, speaking of that money, it was great when he was holding out for that contract. My wife and I were living in Hawaii, I was in the Marine Corps, hoorah. But the Cowboys had that preseason game at
Thank you
Aloha
for your
Stadium.
service.
Oh, shut up. But yeah, he was holding out when the Cowboys went to Hawaii, and my wife and I should have had the picture ready, but we took a poster to the game that just because he was in Cabo at the time, holding out, partying / getting ripped. We just held up a sign that said Hawaii is greater than Cabo, and never got a response from him on Instagram.
Never got anything back from him.
But way to sign and cash in, man.
Yeah, and there was a time where I thought, like, hey, the Cowboys need to start signing their best players. They can't not continue to not sign their best guys. And it was at the time where Zeke was at the height of his career. I mean, he was in the prime of, and all signs pointed to this can be a good sign. And then slowly, year after year after year, I mean, he has just declined in play, and that's okay. Like, I get it, but get rid of the contract. You're going to either get rid of him or get rid of the contract. And right now, if you want this team currently in 2022, despite of what Zeke's contract is, the best play at running back is starting Tony Pollard, and it's that simple.
Yeah, and with Tony having a contract year, it would be really interesting to me, and I bet you would enjoy it if the Cowboys went and drafted a certain running back out of the University of Texas.
I have been clamoring for that, and I actually wanted – going into this season, my expectations for the Cowboys were fairly low, and I said that's actually not the worst thing. If we have a top 15 pick, I'm using it on Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, you never know. But, hey, what do you say we get into some of the fun NFL trade deadline stuff?
Let's do it.
All right. All right. Why don't you point out your favorite trade of the day here?
I think my favorite trade of today, it's got to be Roquan Smith going to the Baltimore Ravens. I just think that is going to really turn into a solid pick because they need some linebacker help. Now, probably Lamar Jackson's maybe thinking to himself, you could have made that trade. You could have gotten one of these wide receivers and Chase Claypool, maybe another, maybe a tight end that could pair well with Mark Andrews. There's a couple of guys that maybe could have been traded instead. We had DJ Moore ended up not getting traded. Elijah Moore ended up not getting traded. Those are guys that maybe Lamar Jackson was clamoring for, but they ended up going defense, and you win championships through the defense. Everybody knows that. I mean, it's the old cliche.
My favorite one of the day, and I don't even know how it really makes sense, but freaking Calvin Ridley to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Bizarre.
I mean, they traded for a guy who literally won't be playing this year, and let me just touch on how stupid it is that he's suspended for gambling, and it wasn't even a high stakes bet. Like it was triple digits for an NFL player, you should be able to gamble more high stakes, but it is what it is. But Kadarius Toney going to the Chiefs, I said it last week, they didn't free up all that cap space to do absolutely nothing.
Yep.
And I think he will probably arise from a wheelchair just like the wrestler in the WWE did, because he's not going to want to stay injured for that long with Patrick Mahomes.
No, I think he's going to be all of a sudden really healthy. He's going to be ready to run some sprints at practice and try to get in the groove of things pretty quick. I think one of the more unique trades of the day goes to this man right here, T.J. Hawkinson, a tight end. You don't trade for a tight end. I think the position is odd, right?
Yeah.
But I also kind of love the move. Like, I don't agree with the trade just due because he's a tight end, but I also really agree with the trade at the same time just because are they one piece away from a Kirk Cousins offense of leading this team into a deep run? They've got a good run game, Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. They've obviously got a star in Justin Jefferson. They've got a complimentary guy in Adam Thielen. Is there one more piece of that puzzle on offense that wasn't solved yet, and that was at the tight end spot? Did they solve that?
I think they're finding him a Jordan Reed replacement because he hasn't really had that since he left Washington. And T.J. Hawkinson, probably the best for your value trade target at tight end right now. And then the other one, the only guy on this list that we talked about last week was Chase Claypool. How the hell did the Bears become the team?
I mean, I think draft capital had a lot to do with it. They were willing to give up. Okay, here's how trades work. For those who don't know how trades work in the NFL.
They essentially.
It was close. Yeah. It takes two people to make a trade, right? You can want some player. You can want Roquan Smith. But the Bears are going to be asking a certain price for Roquan Smith, and if you're not willing to give that up, like, I don't know, a fifth-rounder for Amari Cooper, then that trade's off. They said, hey, we'll give you a second-round pick for an average to okay, mediocre wide receiver who has deep play threat capability, and they'll say, yeah, we'll take the second-rounder. And so I think the Steelers win that trade personally. I'm not entirely sure how great
they definitely
it is,
win
but
the trade.
But Justin Fields is a little bit happier, I will say that much.
Yeah, he's finally got someone to throw to because, I mean, his receivers suck. Let's just be honest. Jeff Wilson Jr. and Bradley Chubb find their way to Miami. The Dolphins making some big moves. What do you think of Bradley Chubb as a Dolphin?
I like it. I think that was one of the stronger moves of the day as well, because the Dolphins, again, the one thing I kind of wanted Dallas to make a move for is I really wanted Dallas to kind of be just to let fans know, hey, we believe we're one piece away. So let's make that one move that's going to at least seem like, hey, we're making a move and we're making a run at Super Bowl, right? We're gonna be ultra aggressive right here. That's what these two guys are right here. There was just an aggressive move that told the Dolphin fan base, told the rest of the NFL, told their division that said, hey, we think we're pretty close. We think we're an edge rusher away and a complimentary running back away from being a solid team in the AFC and competing with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. Dallas didn't make a move like that.
Nope.
Philly did. Philly made a move last week, getting Robert Quinn.
Yep.
And so those are the problems, those are the issues that I have with the Cowboys or other teams. Look, you got Bills, Chiefs, two of the best teams in the NFL right now, making moves, and they're trying to improve upon already being the best two teams in the NFL. That's where I start getting a problem in terms of, are you aggressive enough? Are you making a serious run at things?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. These are a lot of pretty big names that are finding new homes midseason. You don't always see it in the NFL. Let's go over here. Let's talk about who's a fraud and who's for real, okay? Because there's a lot of teams that have records that may or may not indicate what they actually are, despite what the legendary Bill Parcells might say. But why don't you go ahead and kickstart your first team? Are they a fraud or are they for real?
All right. This actually probably would have changed about a week ago, to be honest. I think this last week, they really proved some things. I like what they've done recently ahead of the trade deadline. I like the aggressiveness. I'm going to start off here with the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm going to put them in the for real category. Maybe a week ago, I probably think that they're frauds. I've never been a Kirk Cousins is going to take you to the promised land guy. I've never been a guy who's Kirk Cousins is good, but can he get you over that hump? Can he get you a win in a primetime game? Can he get you a win when all eyes are watching? I think the team around him, and I think he and Coach Stefanski, or not O'Connell, is they're really meshing. There's something clicking there. There's something real there, and so I'm actually gonna leave my my Minnesota Vikings in the for real category.
Right on. Okay, this team right here, the New York Giants. They took a loss to the Seattle Seahawks, which I was not really all that surprised, but they were 6-1 going into that game. And the entire time I was watching it, I just thought, these guys are effing frauds.
Yeah.
Because I think it's mainly because Brian Daboll has gotten them to perform so much better than they're actually capable of playing. But Daniel Jones is not the guy that you want. Everyone was clamoring for him if you're a fantasy football player this week. He is a guy with a very, very low floor, and his ceiling comes up to here.
Right.
And so they actually traded away one of their receivers. I thought they were for sure going to trade for someone. And they traded a very talented Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs. Without giving Daniel Jones, you're already mediocre to crappy quarterback.
Right.
No more weapons to throw to. They're pretty okay. I say pretty okay, because that's how I feel about their defense.
Yeah.
Like Kenneth Walker didn't. That was his first game as the Seahawks starting quarterback.
Running back.
Yeah. Where he didn't look electric yet. He still scored a touchdown. But the New York Giants in this stout NFC East, they might get a wild card spot if they're lucky.
So that means if they're lucky, because right now they're one of the top teams in the NFC right now. If they're lucky means they're going to have a downfall here, a string of losses that are coming their way, and according to you. Now, with that being said, up to this point, you did say something about Dayball that I think is completely true. He is the one reason why they're here.
Yeah. He's got Dayballs.
With them being frauds, is he still considered Coach of the Year caliber coaching this year? You think so? Despite them being frauds?
You get this pack of bums to 6-2, I think that you should be in that conversation.
Okay. All right. Well, let me go ahead and just take a real easy one here.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead just real quickly, put the Jets also in the fraud category. Both New York teams, ultra frauds, but once Breece Hall went down, their season was over.
That let all of the air out of the tires.
Yeah, I don't care. James Robinson can do what he wants. Congratulate you. Made a trade. You tried to make a move. And I applaud you for trying to make that move. It's not going to work out. They're frauds.
All right, I'll talk about someone who's obvious. We don't even have to mention it. But the Eagles, I only throw them here because I have eyeballs, and I think that it's pretty darn obvious. And Jalen Hurts, he has really surprised everyone in the NFL this year, even if you don't play fantasy football, because he had 4 touchdown passes this past week. A.J. Brown is a piece that they added. They had a need that they needed to address at wide receiver, and they made a big move on draft day, and it is really, really paying off.
Yeah, and they use that draft capital that they got, right? That 3 first-round picks. Everyone's thinking, well, there's no way they're going to use all 3 picks. Well, they end up not using all 3 picks, but they use to get a superstar wide receiver who got drug tested because he played so well. Roger Goodell was like, there's no way you're not juicing. 6 catches, 151 yards, 3 touchdowns, and you're going to get a drug test. A random one, obviously, the very next day. And so,
Can't put enough sarcastic points.
And then you get a guy like Jordan Davis in the first round as well, who is obviously one of the better defensive linemen on that roster right now, and he's a rookie, and he's only going to get better. So.
I mean, Miles Sanders is a fine running back. He's a fine running back, but I think that they are a good running back away from running away with their not just their division, but being one of the absolute top Super Bowl contenders.
And let's talk about top running backs. The San Francisco 49ers, I really loved the move that they made with Christian McCaffrey. Are you giving up a lot at a running back position? Yes. Did you oversell for a undervalued position? Yes, you did. But he is a caliber of player that is going to get you a passing touchdown, receiving touchdown, rushing touchdown. So is he just a running back? No, he's not. He's an all-around athlete. I think he elevates Jimmy Garoppolo's play that much more. He is the perfect outlet guy, dump off, safe throw, and he's going to break it for 20 yards, 15 yards out of nothing. The San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, not Mike, Kyle Shanahan, went back to the 90s for a second, is going to be he could make Christian McCaffrey an MVP caliber player and possibly an MVP product, only using half of a season with him in that 49er system.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't sold until I actually went out and saw what Christian McCaffrey could do in this offense, and he's only been there for a week and a half.
Yeah.
And I'll move on. Falcons. These guys are leading a division in professional football.
It's crazy. They've got a playoff spot right now.
They have a playoff spot. Marcus Mariota, and he threw the ball a little bit more last week, but 2 weeks prior, 13 times 14 pass attempts.
Yeah.
And so, man, and they really should have lost to the Panthers. And if the Panthers had won, they'd be leading this division, which is laughable because they're down a head coach and they were the projected number 1 overall pick. But the Falcons, they're nothing to write home about on defense. They're not utilizing their awesome weapons that they drafted. I harped on the Falcons last week, but I pretty much made this whole entire thing just to point out how fraudulent the Falcons are.
He really wanted the Falcons. He really wanted to get there.
Arthur Smith, you've got Drake London, and you've got Kyle Pitts.
Uh-oh.
Freaking use them.
Uh-oh.
Freaking use him. And then they're going to get Cordell Patterson back soon.
Yeah.
Allegedly, he's getting healthier. Hopefully, he comes off IR for my fantasy team's sake and his team's sake. I want to see the Falcons actually look better as a division winner, because this is starting to look like a division that looked like the NFC East teams when Washington got in with a losing record.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what do you think, just quickly, before we go further here, do they win the division? Where do you see this division going? And if they don't win the division, who does win this division?
I think New Orleans finds a way to pull it together.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because they looked really good against the Raiders last week. Even if it is Andy Dalton and not Jameis Winston, they've been looking a lot better in the past couple of games. And
All right.
And that's not saying, I'm not saying that the Saints are good either. I'm just saying
that doesn't mean they're good. It means they're the best of the worst, right? Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna go here. This Tennessee Titans team.
This one was tough for me.
This Tennessee Titans team. I'm gonna leave them highlighted just for a second, because I have believed in the Tennessee Titans for the last 2 or 3 years. I've said Ryan Tannehill is a caliber of quarterback that can win you playoff games. He can do just enough if you've got a guy like Derrick Henry, which he does. They've got a defense, and they've got a solid coaching staff, and Mike Vrabel is a good coach. So there's a lot working for them. There's some things working against them. They don't have a wide receiver. They let A.J. Brown go, and unfortunately the rookie that they drafted to replace him has been out. And so I'm tired of believing in the Tennessee Titans. I'm tired of them letting me down every single year, and they are frauds. They did make a quarterback change. I think that Willis, the young kid out of Liberty, should have been starting to begin the season.
Interesting.
And I think that Ryan Tannehill was stale. I think his voice has gotten old in the locker room. I don't think he carries much weight in the locker room in terms of leadership. I think the new kid does provide a spark, but I think they end up missing the playoffs because of it.
Who wins that division?
Who wins that division is a good question. I think the Colts do. I'm gonna lean on my guy Sam Ehlinger to make a run at things. I know they lost in the last minute. I think the Colts win that division.
All right, you're betting with emotion.
There's nothing. Hey, that's what sports is all about.
All right, I think it's pretty obvious, but I wanted to throw them here because they're in second place in the NFC East right now. But the Cowboys are for real. They've got Dak Prescott back. The offense looked awesome. We've talked about them ad nauseum already.
Yep.
And like I said, even if Micah Parsons doesn't fully return to full health, which I totally hope he does, this defense has looked the best that it has since the 90s. I really like the Cowboys. I think that they're going to beat Philadelphia the next time they meet.
I also believe that as well. Here we go. The Seattle Seahawks.
So that's another tough one.
Here is one that is tough because talent and preseason expectations proved that they were frauds and that they were going to be one of the worst teams.
I don't even think you can say they were frauds.
No, they were just going to be one of the worst teams.
They were just going to be a crappy team.
And after what I saw and the spark that I see Geno Smith giving this team and Pete Carroll's leadership on the sideline, these guys are for real, man. Yeah. These guys are legitimate contenders to not only win their division, but to maybe even win a playoff game. I think this team believes in Geno. I'm not saying they're great. I'm not saying they're talented. I'm saying there's a belief and there is some sort of camaraderie in the locker room and a love for football, and Pete Carroll has gotten that toxic weirdo, number 3, who's playing in Denver right now, out of the locker room.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Broncos country, let's ride. Well, Hawks Nation, let's fly. Let's do it. I like this Seahawks team. I like Geno. There's no better underdog story right now than Geno Smith, and it's not being talked about enough, I don't think, because he never really even had his shot in the NFL. He never had that one season where it was like, oh, you're living up to expectations, and then fell. He never had them.
I'm so glad that you brought up the beginning of his career, because the Jets kind of ruined it before it got started.
Right.
And I'm going to take it down a little bit memory lane when we get to our last segment here with who Geno Smith's coach was when he first got to the NFL.
That's a good little teaser right there.
All right. For now, let's get into our games of the week. All right. Here we go. Gotta wait for covers.com to load. But off the top, which games are you digging this week?
All right, here we
Not
go.
much of a homework guy, are you?
I know. I was actually really busy today. Okay.
Thursday night game. That's a big spread.
Thursday night game is a big spread, and I'm not sure I am loving the spread, but I am going to take Philly to actually cover the 13. I really think Philly is going. I would take the over, and I'd also take Philly covering. I would parlay those two together. I think Philly wins by 2 touchdowns, and I think they are probably the ones that are going to get closer to the 44.5 by themselves. All we need is the Houston Texans to probably just say, all right, let's get 10, 13 points, and we'll get that over.
Yeah, I am looking at, here, let me scroll down here just a second. I'm looking at this Miami-Chicago game. Look, I think 4.5 points at home against the Dolphins. I know they just traded for Bradley Chubb, but like I said earlier, this Bears team has looked a lot better the past 2 weeks, despite a loss to the Cowboys. Justin Fields is kind of finding his form. I don't know if Bradley Chubb will suit up. He definitely won't learn the whole defense, but I don't think that's one piece that's going to stop this train. I don't necessarily think that the Bears will win, but I think that they'll definitely cover. It's actually 5 points, Brad. I looked at the open, but
yeah,
over. And let's look at this. The Bears are 3-5 against the spread, but the Dolphins are 5-3. It's kind of a toss-up because that actually. You can go ahead and draw.
Well, I just wanted to
Change your color.
make it to where people knew who I was. Okay, continue. Sorry.
No, go ahead and pick your next game.
All right,
Okay,
so
before I do that, let me close it out so I can scroll for you.
yeah, so I really like the team that I was just harping on, the team that I was just proclaiming that they are for real, where a lot of people have been doubting them all season long. I really like this Seattle-Arizona game, and I like it because of this number right there. Arizona's favored in this game. Arizona has looked like crap this year. Kyler Murray looks like he's a child with your parents' cell phone running around in the backfield just like not knowing where he's going. He's too busy playing Call of Duty. They just came out. So what do you think he's been doing? Not studying for 4 hours like his contract says. I can promise you that much.
Hey, they took that out of his contract.
Okay, sorry. Go in, all in. Go everything you've got in your account on Seattle. Hit the money line on Seattle. They will win this game outright. Seattle will win it. You don't even need to worry about the spread. On the over-under in terms of 50.5, I might take the under.
All right. Well, I'm looking at these games. I want to mention Vegas and Jacksonville just because, holy crap. How is Vegas favored against anyone? Oh, it's because they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't want to bet anything on it. I just want to acknowledge with you for a second what a terrible game that's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be awful.
I'll be really surprised if the only way they get anywhere on red zone is if Devontae Adams scores a 50-yard touchdown.
That's the only way, yep.
But looking around more, Indianapolis playing the Patriots on the road. Sam Ehlinger, he did not look too sharp against the Washington Commies, and 5.5 points. Golly.
Make a decision. What do you want?
No. Who I'm actually looking at is this one right here.
All right.
Carolina at Cincinnati. Look, Carolina, I just talked at nauseum about how fraudulent the Falcons are, but they went into Atlanta and they should have won the game. If it wasn't for DJ Moore just getting too damned excited.
The kicker needs to make the kick regardless.
Everyone hates the kicker.
Yeah.
But just tone it down. Tone it down. Have some.
Act like you've been there before a moment.
Act like you've been there, even though DJ Moore hasn't been there.
And they've never been there. Yeah, right.
Because he's finally got a quarterback. I don't know that they win this game because they couldn't pull it off against a terrible Falcons team. But 7.5 points is a spread that I'm not going to take because the Bengals looked pretty terrible last week against the Browns. How are the Bengals losing to the Browns so much?
Yeah, I just think the Bengals are kind of lost right now. I'm not sure they have a running game that they really appreciate or can really lean on. I don't think they have an offensive line that's fully protecting Joe Burrow. Well, And they really invested quite a bit into the offensive line this offseason. I know they got Leo Collins. They decided to sign their left tackle from a few years ago in the draft, Jonah Williams, and extend him and really try to solidify some cohesiveness on that line. It's not doing anything. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's really hurting them. And then the defense is what they were last year. Completely average, mediocre. They're not going to stop anybody consistently. So it's all on the arm of Joe Burrow.
You're defending AFC champions. All right,
I've got one more game I want to hit on, and it's on Monday night. The Baltimore-New Orleans game, if we could scroll up to it, I think it's going to be, it's a primetime game, Monday Night Football in New Orleans. That's all I need to know. Mm-hmm. The Baltimore Ravens have been one of the worst teams when it comes to late game debacles, fourth quarter just fallouts and failing at the end of games. I think Baltimore has this game basically locked down going into the fourth quarter, and then we're going to see this New Orleans team come out and ready to play, and they're going to actually take over and win that game. I think they win outright, this New Orleans Saints team. I would take the money line on New Orleans. I would go ahead and take the over. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think Lamar Jackson on the turf in the Dome is going to go all over the place, but I also think that New Orleans Saints team, when they're Monday night primetime in the Dome, it's almost impossible to win.
Yeah, it's very challenging, and I like that money line there for the Saints very much. Emery, are we full of it at any point tonight? Because you're not saying anything, and so
I just hear him giggling every now and then, so I need to know if he's giggling like, wow, what an idiot. It's passive aggressive. Yeah.
No. I agree with what y'all have been saying.
Okay. That's one guy on the entire planet that's agreeing with what we're saying right now. Yeah. Don't rely on making your bills and your car payment on what we're saying. Yeah.
Oh, he's an intern. He doesn't even get paid.
Yeah.
All right. Any other games
before
we move on?
I like the games that we touched on. The other ones, I'd maybe the only other one I would touch on is this Rams-Tampa Bay game, possibly. I don't like Tampa Bay at all right now. So whatever you want to do in favor of the Rams is what I would say, because I don't trust Tampa Bay. I don't trust Tom Brady. I don't trust that defense even right now.
These are two quarterbacks that are a little bit older, long in the tooth, and they're not getting blocked for. The receivers, other than Cooper Kupp, are not making plays. But
Right.
Cooper Kupp may or may not play this week. Yeah, it kind of gives the same taste in my mouth that the Raiders-Jaguars game.
It might be a pretty ugly game. Although that should have been, whenever we were looking at the schedules on schedule release day before the season started, I think everybody had Week 9, Rams-Buccaneers circled on their calendars. This is going to be a good one. NFC Championship rematch. It's not going to live up to those expectations by any stretch of the imagination.
Right on. All right, last segment of the night.
Let's do it. Let's have some fun. Let's have a little fun
We're going to have a little bit of fun here.
Yeah.
And then go back to our canvases here. Whoops. All right. Why don't you tell the people what we're going to be doing, Tanner?
All right, so here's what we've decided to do is that we're huge fans of The Office.
Who isn't?
Everyone loves The Office. Everybody is a big fan. And so why not combine the two of our favorite things on this planet, The Office and the NFL? We're going to recast The Office with NFL personnel. It can be coaches, it can be GMs, it can be owners, it can be players, it can be basically anybody and any thing that's involved with the current NFL. So here's what we're going to do. And here is our list of players that we are going to be recasting as The Office. So I'm going to start off here with Michael Scott. I'm going to make Michael Scott, I think Kirk Cousins. Oh, that's.
Why are you drawing?
I'm not trying to draw on it, and
You're drawing on
I
my
want to
artwork.
delete that red line. It's going to bother me. How do I? Oh well. Okay, we'll go with it. Kirk Cousins is Michael Scott. Why? It's because he's the dad of the NFL. He's got the sunscreen on the nose. He's such a dork. Justin Jefferson, ironically and passive-aggressively, puts his chains on him just so he can look even more lame than he already is. But he's such a likable guy, right? He's so naive to the fact that he is lame, and he's just a super lame guy that everybody kind of has to like at the end of the day.
He's the kind of guy where if my sister brought him home, I'd be totally okay with it.
Right.
I'd be like,
you could do better.
I don't really want to hang out with that guy. Oh. No, we're recording, sir. Sorry.
That was awesome.
That's what happens when Emery doesn't want the studio.
That was awesome.
we're not live.
That was the greatest thing I've experienced.
I'm gonna leave it in.
Yeah. No, that was fantastic. I wish we would have gotten a camera over there. That's the only thing I wish we would have done.
But like I said about Kirk Cousins, he's a guy that if my sister brought home, I'd be okay with it. But I would dread those conversations at the family reunion. Just because, like you said, he's just kind of a...
He's cringy, but he's safe. You know, he's uncomfortable, but he's also reliable. You know what he is. He brings in a good income for the family. Right, exactly, 100%.
All right, where is my Michael Scott? My Michael Scott not in here? Oh, yes, he is. Rex Ryan. He's on TV now, so there's a little bit of an asterisk on his status as an NFL personnel. But I had to go back to the picture from when he trolled Baker Mayfield with his orange and brown, because when he was on Hard Knocks coaching the New York Jets, he was the most hilarious head coach that they ever had. Funniest one that I can recall. He was just a big, goofy guy, and yet you really liked him. Rex Ryan, you're Michael Scott.
You're Michael Scott. He's Michael Scott, world's best boss. All right, I'm going to go with Dwight Schrute. And if anybody has actually watched The Office, you'll know what clip I'm talking about. They actually have a scene where they're playing football in the office and they're brainstorming and they're throwing the ball around. And Dwight Schrute goes full beast mode and just destroys the entire office. He's forcing fumbles. He's picking passes off. He's stiff-arming. This guy has a stiff arm just as mean as his counterpart right here, Derrick Henry. So Dwight Schrute is my Derrick Henry, just simply based on his football skills, not necessarily personality.
Okay. I was really curious about
That's why
when you told me
I sent you the video for proof. I needed just to make sure that everybody knew we were on the same page.
Yeah, Tanner told me yesterday that he was going to cast Derrick Henry in the Dwight role, and I was like, that's kind of it.
I want to see where he goes with this, right? But yeah, it was simply because the stiff arm that he put on Kevin, where he threw Kevin about halfway across the office. Kevin's a big guy, so.
Yeah, but for Dwight, I'm going with the weird man.
That's a great pick. A great pick.
Aaron Rodgers.
I love it.
Because, look, even when he was playing his best, which was last year or the year before, once, I believe, 3-time MVP.
Yeah, back-to-back MVPs.
And even then, there was a general understanding that he was the second best quarterback in the league after Tom Brady, hence his status as assistant to the regional manager.
I like it. I like it.
He's kind of descended this year on and off the field. On the field especially, because his team as a whole is just not very good. He's blaming everyone else for their mistakes. And it just felt right to me.
No, it's a great comparison, because he's always going to be assistant to the manager. He's never going to be the greatest, but there are times where he puts up the best numbers. And Dwight is a hell of a salesman. So we're going to go to our next, Jim Halpert. If there was any Jim Halpert in the NFL, it's my man Joe Burr right here. He's got the swag. Look at the hair. Even the hair is about as similar as it's going to get between the two. He's cool. He shows up to work every day. He's just kind of nonchalant. He's always very casual, very just go with the flow. He's likable. I'm not sure there's a single person that loves the NFL that doesn't love Joe Burrow. I don't think there's a single person that's a fan of The Office that isn't a fan of Jim Halpert. I just think that their personalities mesh. They're the two coolest guys in the league or on the show. Jim Halpert, Joe Burr, those are my guys.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. It might be better than mine. I kind of wish I'd have gone first, but I'm going to go with Travis Kelce, because I mean, similar to Joe Burrow, everyone in the NFL generally likes the guy. He's very funny. If you've ever watched the podcast that he does with his brother,
very good.
It's very, very funny. He's very cool. He hangs out with Patrick Mahomes, even though he's probably a decade older than him. I don't know. I just like Travis Kelce to play the role of Jim Halpert.
I like it. Sometimes you don't need a reason. It just is the right fit.
Yeah.
It just feels right. All right, we're going to go Andy Bernard here. And Andy Bernard's a cringy guy, right? He's a little off. He's not. He's a little. And so, yeah, he's very cringy. He's uncomfortable. He's not very great to be around. He's also got some weird issues that I don't think anybody has completely figured out. And that, to me, is Russell Wilson. There has not been a more cringy interview this year than number 3 for the Denver Broncos. He's kind of the laughingstock. If anybody saw the video, you got kickers, Justin Tucker, making fun of him. And kickers have been the laughingstock of the NFL since the NFL existed. And then you've got those guys picking on you. You're not cool. You're causing friction in the locker room because you're so uncomfortable, and guys feel pressured to feel some kind of superiority to you or something. So
I could so see him punching a hole through a wall, too.
And at some point, Andy Bernard did become the captain of the ship in the office.
That's true.
Russell Wilson is the captain. He's the leader of that team. Things always got worse whenever Andy became manager in the office. Things got worse for the Denver Broncos when Russell Wilson became quarterback for that team.
Yeah. I actually like that one. I went a more fun route.
Okay.
Because Andy, he's not just a cringy guy. He's also funny and likable at times.
There are times.
That's why I did.
Hey, there you go.
On the other end of the Andy spectrum, I went with his more likable side, his very funny side, his Ivy League side, because Ryan Fitzpatrick
Look at that. I love it.
is a Harvard grad,
Yeah.
and Andy Bernard, I think he went to Cornell.
Cornell, that
I
is
can't
correct.
remember how many times he mentioned that in the show. But I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, is there a more joyous guy? I wanted to use the picture of him in the Deshaun Jackson get-up, but I wanted to go with a more current photo.
For sure. And then Todd, I'm glad you threw Todd Packer at me, because I really didn't know where you were going to go with it, but he sent a list, and he goes, all right, who are you recasting? And it was just literally the list of the Office characters, and Todd Packer was at the bottom of it. I said, that's interesting. That one took me a little bit of time to think about, and I had to settle on Dan Campbell. Is Dan Campbell super likable after the Hard Knocks? Yes. Is Todd Packer likable at any moment in time? No. So that's not really where I was going with it. It's the aggressive nature of the two characters. Todd Packer is intense. He tells you what's on his mind. It's not always appropriate. Dan Campbell is intense. It's not always appropriate. And he always tells you what's on his mind. And so he's biting off kneecaps. He's getting his guys ready to go.
Doing up-downs with his team.
He's kind of the rah-rah guy. Todd Packer, kind of the rah-rah guy, although he plays a very small role. He was never successful in the office. He never got a big role in it. Dan Campbell, as much as we all want him to succeed and be part of the NFL, I'm not sure he's going to be around too much longer.
Yeah, I would. Clifton and Glen Rose native. He's an Aggie, which I don't particularly agree with, but Texas guy nonetheless,
right.
From very close to where we are right now. And like you said, everyone likes him. But he's got to be able to pull out those close games. But that's beyond the point, because my Todd Packer is the owner of the Indianapolis Colts. I would have said Dan Snyder, but I wanted this to be more fun.
You know, when I saw Jim Irsay up there, hadn't even started the segment, and as soon as it pulled up on the screen, Jim Irsay was up there. I said, "That's Todd Packer."
He's got the DUIs.
Yeah.
He says things that are just completely off the wall. His professional, his colleagues are enemies in a sense. Mm-hmm. I'm referring to Dan Snyder when I say that, but at the same time, he has those moments in the public eye where you just kind of have to laugh.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Colts fan. I don't know how Colts fans feel about Robert Irsay, but I could think of nobody else.
And there are some moments with like Todd Packer, you're like, God, I shouldn't be laughing at this. This is actually not a good thing at all. Like the DUIs and things like that. Like there are some moments where Todd Packer is talking, I'm like, this is totally inappropriate. I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's hilarious. It's a train wreck. I'm ready. I can't look away from it. That's Jim Irsay.
Yeah, I would love to quote Todd Packer until the cows come home. But here on 365 Sports, I don't want to get anyone besides myself in trouble. But I think that that's going to wrap it up for us
It
here.
was a fun episode. I hope everybody enjoyed our little office segment. I mean, it was just a little bit of fun. That's what sports should be all about. You know,
Yeah.
just having a good time, cutting it up, drinking some
Having fun.
beers.
Exactly. Emery, how's that beer, buddy?
Oh, it's great.
Are you 21?
Yeah,
Are you sure?
barely.
Barely. He's barely buzzing.
No, but I will say on the recasting of The Office, I feel like y'all missed out with not throwing. I mean, I know he's not in the NFL anymore, but throwing Urban Meyer as Todd Packer.
That's
That
a good one.
that would've been
no,
a really good
it's
one.
good. It's good. It's a solid pick. Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
When the pictures of him coming out, grinding up on those girls, I could have heard someone in the distance say, Pac-Man, need a drink. But, having a lot of fun here, talking some NFL. We'll be back next week.
Yeah.
That's Emery Winter producing. I'm Jacob Wilson. That's Tanner Carlson. This has been Shootin the Shield, powered by 365 Sports.
Like and subscribe.